mean, if push comes to shove anyways, anybody can litigate. Say if that's unreasonable, but we've got it there. Those are the stipulations. We felt that you violated the stipulation. There's our case.
I think there's plenty of leniency, in my opinion, of what he can do to enforce the code depending on the situation.
As long as the code is specific enough.
Right, because I thought the intent was to fill the gaps or the loopholes between the two, right?
Correct.
And are we fulfilling that?
Yes.
Is it gonna address the concerns of the public that makes phone calls and comes in?
I think so, yes.
It's a critical element. A critical element.
But Carl had brought up to me that some of the way that it was written and some of the intent behind the way it was written in the past was not necessarily to penalize, but to give the person holding the event some ability to make changes
Right.
and to, to improve things for the future. And I think that this allows for that route without just immediately forcing a penalty if it is somebody's first violation. Which was, that was in favor of the board last time this was brought up.
So the hammer would come down on the second violation.
Not necessarily.
It's discretionary right now with the code enforcement officer to do what they choose.
That's called wiggle room.
Well, the idea was to work with them, to fix the problem, not try to shut them down.
Right.
Well, we know what the problem is, the base.
But I don't think the way that it was written before even gave that ability to work with them.
Well, we're not meanies.
It's gonna be difficult, it's a no-win situation, really. As far as, no matter what we do, I think. The majority, not the majority, but the minority.
Pretty close. With regards, and we're not talking town-wide, we're talking one specific area.
Well, you never know, other special events in other parts of the town.
Pumpkin Village, like the pumpkin farm or whatever, they might well be guilty of occasionally getting a little tidy.
But
And certainly a golf course, I'm not sure, never took a reading. But it is, just turning the levels down slightly can well get you into meeting the requirements and still have a reasonably good concert. So in theory of working with them, is, I think, quite viable.
is fireworks addressed at all?
Yes,
Oh, well, fireworks is a problem.
not in the noise.
The noise was for electronically generated or amplified sounds.
Right. The
So fireworks didn't get covered at all.
fireworks now apply for the special event permit.
So that's.
That's clarified, yeah.
So basically, the town board is not gonna have any say in anything moving forward if we were to pass this. It's all up to Dave Miller.
That's
Well, I
all.
think we always have a say.
I mean, Dave Miller's there to enforce the code. And I think that's the way it's written right now.
Did the decibel levels get adjusted?
My next
Where do we go
question.
from?
Oh,
I guess I gotta really read the whole thing
Yeah.
before I can really give it. I'm not open to whichever way, but I'd like to read it all.
I mean, we always have a say because it can be adjusted and changed.
Sure.
Right?
Well, if we put a law in and we don't have a say, then we've gotta do something to allow us to say.
But again, that's how it's written right now, that there's no system to have the town board have any kind of hearing
Right.
right now.
Right.
And my understanding from our last conversation was that the majority didn't want to create that process.
No, you're right. I think the thought process at the time was to give Dave what he needed to do his job.
Right. That's why related to policy versus enforcement.
Right.
And the separation between the two.
Okay,
But I see what you're saying too. Yeah, I'd like to. just
No, like
peruse it.
Dave said, if you get to look at it and see it, then you can make those changes before it gets to that point.
yeah.
And we always have the option to modify it anytime anyways.
Oh, I don't, yeah,
But that was it. I mean, that was my biggest thing was. It was identified that there were loopholes between the two. And now we kind of fill those in. And that makes his job, correct?
So,
And
yeah,
that was the intent here.
and one idea, then there's a means instead of within the code as written. And some of the changes where. There would be a method to work towards abatement versus penalties, and perhaps I could write in that the town board would be involved. At that level of any conversations regarding abatement.
the, when do we get to see this?
Very, very soon. I just wanted to go over that one comment from Dave Miller to see if I could adjust what I had written. And then one other question, because I had mentioned that I would go look at some other towns. Not a lot of towns comment on specific decibel levels. But Amherst does. And Amherst's maximum decibel level is a lot lower than what's in the code right now.
What scale do they specify?
Same,
C?
and their maximum is, 70 to 75, depending on where you are in the town. For their. Basically up to 11 PM, and then at other times it's only 50, and ours is currently 80 and 65.
You said 50?
We could lower. That might solve some things.
Well, once we see it, I think that'll be a topic of discussion. I know for this particular board member to lower the numbers that we have currently.
50 won't work. Because the background noises along Main Road and stuff are much higher than that. So that has to be probably a 5 dB greater than background or something. Because 50 is great for residential if you're way away from everything, but.
The
for us-
throughway, the throughway.
Which
Well, no,
is,
this is
which is,
only for the electronically
Okay.
amplified sound, this is not for all. sound.
Roadways. Okay.
yeah, because I was gonna say, how many major highways go through Amherst?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, and it does, the code does say. Either these limits or 5 decibels above ambient noise level.
Yeah, gotta get above ambient because at 50s. Cricket beats that.
Okay, so we can expect those in our mailboxes this coming week.
Yeah.
Maybe discuss in 2 weeks.
Sooner than later. It can be put up for public hearing. And we'd like to get it all tidied up by the start of
April. Which seems a long ways away, but it's not,
blinking and reading.
because you gotta wait so many days. Okay,
We get those in the email or they printed and stuck in mailboxes. How does that work?
I
um,
will email them and.
if you
want
could
to
email
copy-
them and make sure, Don and Jen is an email, and then. Make hard copies for everybody. Yeah, I'll make sure the board gets a hard copy.
And you push out an email and indicate that they're in the mailbox. So we have a clue to come get them. Is that the way it works, or you just?
I will email you, so you'll know.
Got
when
it,
they're-
thank you.
Can I get a copy?
Okay. Next, Scott apologized, he could not be here this evening, he is attending a public hearing in his town, with some building next to his house that he doesn't want, so. He's exercising his rights, and that was, the public hearing was tonight, could be in two places, but, basically, the only thing we have left on the water lines is the little restoration in the spring. Ballpark was, just over $1 million, $1,080,000 we've spent. $1,080,000. There's some bills forthcoming, and then whatever the final restoration is. So we're not gonna be that far off from the original, so. Everything's forthcoming, but I haven't heard any complaints about any of the hookups, so everything's been going well. Buildings, library, senior center.
A lot of water running through. Talked with Sarah,
This is senior center.
the senior center. That's all done as far as leaking. That, I don't know how much snow got up into the attic, but it did some damage to ceiling tiles. The HVAC is okay, they got a part for that. I asked Sarah why they were there to ask about the insulation around the ductwork going to the outside of the building. She was told that with the heat running, that'll dry out and to keep the ceiling tiles down, so there's more ventilation up through there. That's probably part of the problem with having this, the steel roof there. I remember years ago, I don't know what it was, maybe 8, 9 years ago, we had issues with the roof up there. I think a lot of the issues there were again from wind driven rain or snow that gets up in there and then all of a sudden starts leaking to a ceiling tile. Also, we talked everything from snow plowing to toilet paper. As far as.
With Sarah?
Yeah. Yeah, I also, Rick Redmond was there too, so I talked to him a little bit, some of the things too, just to get everybody's side of the story, basically, what's what. The library. Again. We have what? I don't know, we had here a couple feet of snow the last storm, probably 2 to 3 feet, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Didn't leak once. Really? Then we had all that rain on top of it. Didn't leak once. So.
Good news.
No, it's not really good news.
It's kind of weird.
Because in the past it has leaked.
Yeah, it is, and I was up there on the one section, I'm gonna get back up there again. And I think the one part is leaking. Where the roof goes up the wall and is splashed in, I'm guessing. Because when it was leaking last time, there was a lot of ice up there and snow. Now, this last one with the wind blowing, it was pretty low and clean, except for right along the building itself, where if anybody's been there, you know how they got the windows there, you can see out that one section.
The west side of the building.
Maybe the east side towards the alley, there's a set of windows there. There's some on the other side too, but it's the ones on the other side. So I think the snow had kind of blown clean right along the building there, so that's why I'm kind of thinking it's along the edge there. I'll get up there and take a look at it again and see if there's a tear or something. Then we had a couple other little leaks again in the meeting room. But again, we had that rain that was out of the northeast again, or east. So it tells me it's something on that wall there. I don't know if there's anything else for the library that I can recall.
Did we ever get a bill from Rob?
No. No, I'm gonna be calling him again anyway, so. Oh, the elevator in the library. Did you get anything on that, Dave, on the elevator?
Was that just check?
So. I'm gonna talk to. Whitback, Tom. Tom Whitback, because we got 3 phases going into that. Building, and I think we had an issue with that before. So I wanna talk to him about the phases coming in, talking to the elevator guy, and I wanna see what the bill's gonna be. That he says anytime, even though you don't lose power, if you lose one of those legs, it'll shut that elevator down. And then you can't reset it, they gotta come and reprogram the whole thing.
That's Bison elevator service?
I think that was Bison. That was it.
Oh, there's a $228 bill to be paid, or going to be.
Well, that's not bad,
Well, I don't, it's 1/3 elevator.
Kind of weird. We should-
what was that for?
You translate it, it's right there. But that was one sign for this payment. Does Bison take care of the elevator in the library?
Okay, it's a third of I think it's a third of the previous maintenance. That they come in.
Doesn't have
for.
anything to do with this most recent.
It could. It's dated 1/3. Which
Dated the
he did tell Christine he was gonna do the service while he was there, so. So that's not too bad. I won't be paying $1,000 to reprogram this thing, cause of.
So you wanted to talk to Whitbeck to see if there's some way to sort of
No,
navigate this, so we don't have to pay the
I just want to
reprogramming.
check it, cause if we're. Customer of the Village Electric there, that we should check to make sure everything's okay there.
Because there are blips and they just go out a short time, but if that cuts off the elevator every time, it would be expensive.
I think that's all I got on buildings. I mean, I'm sure. Talking to the elevator guy that. They had elevators that were pretty much shut right down because of the guts of the unit are outside and they were just packed with snow. Luckily ours is a mechanical room, so.
I know I discussed with you with regards to the leaks. They're not unique. It literally shut down 3 schools in Buffalo
Yeah,
after vacation, one of which is still shut down. And remote learning because of damage, because of the storm.
Damage to the roof.
Roofs, leaks, I mean, even our building, there's a whole bunch of ceiling tiles. Where it leaked, some of them gave way, some of them held, and then if you looked up in there, everything was dried out.
yeah, that's what
You
happened
know
at
what I mean?
senior
It's just-
center.
It
Started-
happened and. So that stuff just blew into places where. You know, sprung a leak.
We do have extra ceiling tiles, so I hope we get most of them repaired.
So
Like
that's
we had the
cosmetic.
same, we had the same thing up at the joint facility, we had, all of a sudden, she was in cleaning in the supply room and down come the tile and, you see there was 2 there. We had about 4. And we just think it's just the way the wind blew and the way the stuff,
Right.
That's a steel roof up there too, isn't
Yeah.
it?
and, we replaced today, we finished replacing them and everything seemed to be dry. We left
And
it
yeah,
all-
dry above the
Yeah.
tiles, right? Everything dried out, yeah.
Did you have extra tiles, Mike, or did you have to go buy them?
No, there was a couple boxes there.
She wasn't injured or board.
No, she just was over filing cabinets and that also.
The one at the senior center, nothing could be the same. Oh, maybe we got someone's here. These are the same as the senior center. Where the library, they're individual 2x2 squares, these are 2x4s. So if you see that you got the metal, and then the one right between the light here is just a false tan, it just makes it look like it's a grid. Where it's lighter. What- Do we have any here, John?
I believe so.
Okay. But they also had that weird pattern. In the entranceway to senior center. Which is. Each 2x2 is cut by 4, so you got 4 individuals in the 2x2. I didn't see the extras for that.
It's sort of just an aesthetic difference, right?
That's right. It's
As long as they
not
work
bad,
for them up, you got it.
Yeah. We try to make it math.
They don't come in, look at this page, they're in this.
this takes one to notice. That's it.
Okay. Grants, we got notification today, we did receive the community development block grant for 25,000 for the van.
Oh, that's good news.
So now she's got a surplus of money, which is good.
That's good.
I think she'll be reaching out to a couple, one of the others and seeing if she can move that into something else. But, so that's a good news. Okay, highway? Anything?
You distribute the 5 papers I did, my request just before the December meeting, last one.
Yeah. You requested a piece of equipment this coming year. And also gave the equipment report.
26 items, 26 vehicles.
Oh,
What I like. What happened, we had, I originally wanted to bid out 2 of the sliding sanders. Well, we had an accident. With one of the sliding sanders. The chute, they backed into it on the bottom. And. That sander's been on that truck probably 22 years, whatever.
One of our trucks hit it, Mike?
Yeah. They were out plowing, and we were running 2 trucks at a time on these roads during the storm. And as Joe didn't see it, but anyway, so it's the chute that hangs down. So I got a cost on replacing that chute. And that was $8,080 some just for that chute. And where the chute is hooked on to right where the apron chain is, there's a rod with some sprockets, and that got bent. So, and that was probably one of the oldest sanders sliders. So what I did is I took our spare slide in and put it in a new truck for the time being. And we had purchased that Smith sander from Town of Clarence here. This is the 2nd year. And it's really working well. Well, 2 of our trucks do not have sliding sanders. We have what's called an inline sander. It's in the box. And number 8, once we get this other truck going, we'll probably get rid of the 2004 for the inline sander. So I originally thought buy 2 and have 1 for a spare with this other one getting damaged. And I don't know if it's worth putting the $8,000 in versus I got a quote on. It was a quick quote. We would bid it out. But on 3 of these 14-foot Smith sanders, slide-in sanders with a hydraulic auger. It's got the model number, the galvanized screens on top that are required when you have an auger instead of an apron chain. 3 of them, their price right now is $80,790. So the one that's in the new truck now would be a spare.
So Mike, the damaged one, have you talked to Adam? And if they totaled that sander out, what would we get, you think? And put that money towards the new,
I did not talk to Adam.
I mean, we
got
have
the-
insurance right on that stuff.
What the girl told us from Valley Fab. He says, don't scrap it or nothing. He says you can put the slide-in part on like Marketplace or Auctions International. And you could bring in a pretty decent buck. So I don't know what you would get for that.
I just wonder if the insurance, because how old do you say it was? 20 or 20 plus
2000
years?
Yeah, it's 22 years old.
I'm just wondering if the insurance company would just total it, what our compensation would be for it.
I don't know what your deductible is, but.
Well, we'd have to ask, you know,
I
get all that
I-
information.
Oh. I have all the pictures and everything.
The item you're talking about, Michael, is it one of these 26 on this sheet that you gave us?
No.
Um,
It was a piece of paper with 3 requests.
Yeah, this one, that's here. But I was trying to ask, that doesn't tell anything about the age, but this over here does. The vehicle number and then the year.
Well, it probably doesn't have the standard in there though. You
No,
have the
it-
standards not on that sheet.
No. That's just vehicles.
That would be my recommendation, with just to see. And I don't know what we can do as a municipality, but then if you say if it's worth what it is, what would it cost to buy it back and then put it back on marketplace?
And I don't know how much you guys wanna keep, not keep, but use the insurance company. I mean, I think.
Well, I don't know how often we use it. I mean, that's why you have it for something like this.
We won't know until we ask, so
Yeah.
let's ask. It's worth asking. Adam's pretty square
We'll be
with
square
us.
about it.
He'll tell us whether, hey, you probably shouldn't do this because it's gonna cost you. Or, hey, this is a good idea.
I don't know how many claims we have. We don't have a lot of claims, but
Very, very few.
Who's going to bring that up? Is it Mike?
I can call, I'll
Yeah,
call
why don't you call
Call
Adam?
Adam and talk to Turkey and see what's it.
then.
That would qualify in a state of emergency.
Yes.
It would.
Mhm.
Another, we can
Allegedly, okay, I just attended, Colleen and I attended Friday a seminar. Hour and a half. State. Yeah, you see the look on their face. We both sat there and looked at each other and shook our heads. You learn more when people ask questions at the end. And or they send you the slides, they send us the slides, but what you can and what you can't. It's such a moving target right now because they're not totally sure. If this federal law is going to interfere or this federal law is going to interfere that will allow us. Part of the conversation is depending on how many inches of snow you got. Which is.
aren't our 2 top-notch senators working on that for the federal government? I heard on the news.
So right now, I think it does.
Damaged equipment,
Damage equipment.
fighting a storm,
Mhm.
could potentially fall under that, so we have,
Yes, we put in
it's
for it.
another avenue.
We put in for it.
So then
We
you
didn't
could-
put in the 80,000, we just put in for the one that got damaged.
Yeah, and so even then, if you went off the insurance, you wouldn't have to go through the insurance, you got something from the insurance on what the cost might, because you're gonna have to have some kind of estimate
Mhm.
put in.
Right,
And then that could recoup the fund for it.
hopefully.
So.
So you can still turn in the insurance and still go after the funds later too, right?
So you may even have to.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I don't have any
Settlement
idea. I didn't-
Part
I
of it.
wasn't trapped at the seminar, but
Oh, I could have called you and we were more than happy to have you.
Ronnie Sanders, we're just gonna look at an insurance thing and just not think about replacing any of the older ones and having a spare. Because if we get rid of the 2004 dump, there was never a sliding one in there.
No, you brought that up before budget time that you'd like to replace those standards then. I don't have a problem with replacing the 2 standards that we were originally gonna replace.
But I didn't know that this other one would get smashed up, that's what I'm just saying.
No, but still, that's a way to get a 3rd one in there, hopefully, with insurance or recovery money, whatever. It doesn't hurt to look into it.
And what I'm hearing, I guess, is go ahead and get quotes on those 3, or no, we'll have to.
Well, I have the one in the sander, but we're gonna have to go out and bid it.
Right.
You know, put it out for bid.
Can you get that?
Basically, it's gonna be right here.
The specs. Extra seven.
Yeah, I can give you this one, but,
Okay.
You talking about getting a bid on 2 Sanders?
3.
Well, it'll be 3 now.
3, I don't, well. I
Well,
don't know.
the 3rd one is sort of in abeyance until we find out when. Or you go ahead and find it for 3, save the time.
Well, I think
You might get a better.
I don't know if he's gonna, you know.
I would get a bid for 3, you can always just get 2, right?
That's right.
So I would
I will
go
check
for
with
what,
him there, but this basically is. Everything was right here, Smith standard, and it tells everything on it.
This is Smith slide-in. That's the same as what you're talking
Yeah.
about there.
And it's a 7 to 8 week period that. I hope you can get it.
We don't have to wait months to get,
Pardon?
we don't have to wait months to get this thing?
Just tell me whether there's 7 to 8 week waiting. period.
What-
Oh, 7 day week
What-
waiting.
7 to 8 weeks.
what's with the green lights now, Mike?
That was something that was passed. A combination, you can use amber and green. And,
They see the county's got them, they see our trucks got them.
we did, some of ours had, as you know, running all winter, it was for a year period. They corrode, they rot out, so when they passed this law. I went ahead and. Put them on the trucks, it's, supposed to be more safety, more
So it's
visible.
more visible than the amber ones, the green?
Well, there's amber and green,
Okay.
They alternately flash.
yeah, and then you can set them how you want them to flash too, that's.
Very eco savvy covered.
But they're only good on municipal vehicles, I don't believe you can put them on a private truck.
Okay,
The other one I had on there was, the Great All or a wheeled excavator. As we know, we had a chance to get a Great All a few years ago and I got nixed. So I'm not look at it a different way. Some of these towns do have what's called a wheeled excavator. It has the boom and the stick like our regular excavator. But these newer ones have what's called a 2-piece boom. And they don't lift as high up,
For safety reasons.
well, to get under the wires and that.
Yeah.
The Great All arch comes in and out. I'd like to go look at it, I got a couple places, Sheldon and some other places, just to look at these newer ones. And what's nice about this, you can get in it, you drive it down the road, you don't have to travel, don't have to unchain it, don't have to chain it. And it's sub 200,000.
Whereas the Great All is in the neighborhood of 400.
480,
Almost 500.
yeah, it's. And we've lost another employee, so. Maybe it's time that we can look at a different machine. And the guys that are there. Will be open-minded to something, learning on something else. Rather than stick here. It's,
so you want to go out to bid on this?
well, it's. I would like to look at it, it's on the OGS contract in Sourcewell. It's already been bid. I would like to look at it, just see what the guys feel or what they think.
So you would take somebody over with you?
I would take probably 3-4 of the guys, what's ever left. Chris and probably Gary, and just see what they thought.
Mhm.
I know Sheldon's got one, Warsaw's got one. I think Sardinia runs a wheeled excavator, Neely Marzop up from Genesee County runs one.
I don't think it. Board, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong in you looking into it.
Well, we can stop them looking at it.
Yeah, he's gonna look at it in the US. Yeah, and come back with the numbers.
I mean, I got the numbers, but like I say, it's some. So it's 200,000.
We'll look at it and if you still
If it does
are
the job,
interested, then get back to us.
And then the last one is a side-by-side for ditching, bike path parks.
that was number 1 on your list.
Yeah. I know some people don't agree with it, some people think it's. Toy or whatever, I don't think any of our equipment are toys, but like I said, we can put a fuel tank on it, we don't have to walk the machine back and forth to the roads. Like now, I thought we had all these trees cleaned up that are in these excuse me, field ditches, there's a ton more.
Why would you think that?
Well, you know, that's okay, I just hope it. Before there's a ton down already, we just cleaned one up at the Catholic Church, one off of, South Newstead, and they're down. To throw the couple guys in there and the equipment and, you know, a fuel tank.
What's the ballpark on that? It's just off the top of your-
24. But that's. That's with a dump body, that's enclosed, you know.
Well, wouldn't we, if we were interested, wouldn't we want to get one that we could use all year round?
Yeah, and that's on, is that on the OGS? I believe that's on the OGS. But again, they could. John Deere or Kubota could not even do the fine if they can get them.
When you keep saying OGS, what's that?
In the Office of General Services.
That's the state.
State bids, state bid.
Um,
But as soon as you get some numbers,
I mean, this is the old quote from,
last year you said?
the last time I brought it up. It was at least a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. Okay, the final price was 23,760. And this is everything I spec'd on with it.
Oh, the specs were the same, we're interested.
Okay, this was here, the date was 4/11/22, so almost a year ago.
Double the price.
No. Well, I don't know what the price would be now.
Oh, just. The sooner we get the prices and
Before we go any place, we need to see a price on that, the ballpark price. So if you get us an updated number on that. Anything else, Mike?
That. Like I say, the new truck is here, we're just working on, getting everything hooked up. Had a couple little adjustments to make on, the D block and some fittings on the back. And the sander, put sideboards. So we're hoping that, maybe by, at the latest, maybe next week, we can. Run her down the road. And then I would like permission probably to put, the 2004. With all the old plow equipment, and get rid of that, and I'm telling you, I'd like to keep the 2001. It's just a.
some trucks you're talking about.
Yeah,
Well, why don't we cross that bridge when we get these other three bridges taken care of?
Have we heard any news about applicants for the position up there?
we just put it up again, I got nothing.
How many men are we short?
Well, you're gonna be short here this week, you're gonna be.
Deaner's gone.
Deaner's gone.
And the other guy, he moved
Just
on a
started.
few months ago.
I-
Was he replaced?
Pete replaced him with Dawson Beer.
That's the guy, yeah, okay.
I still don't understand, we knew that two people were leaving, why we weren't allowed to put two people on.
So we're one man short right now.
And,
Not, well,
yeah,
starting
It's
next
for a
week.
time when Dana's gone. But this Dawson fellow's working out.
he is, he's doing a good job. He's got one of the routes down. He was in the truck alone here during the storm,
Wow.
so he,
That's good news.
yeah, and he. He kind of has a sense that it's something he thinks is going wrong, he stops, he quits, he looks it over. And Yeah.
He has some care about the equipment then.
okay. Other gas well? Nothing back from the village?
Well, we paid the, in this month, we paid, Little Peters, yeah, that's in the bills. For
Yeah.
this,
That's the yearly bill.
yeah. Yeah, so I should get a pay,
That's
something like
yeah.
$735 or $80.
Okay, the only other thing that I have is, we all received, I think, hopefully I forwarded to everybody, the list of questions or areas to discuss from the village.
That seemed pretty reasonable, the ones that Peter proposed. I
Do we
don't see
want
we
to,
get
do we want to meet with them? I would assume the 30th, which is our next meeting, we're going to spend our time discussing noise/event law. So the following Monday is a free Monday. When I say free, it's the fifth Monday. So, I can suggest to them that we meet them if we want to meet with them.
That's before the election though.
Yes. Peter wants to meet
Before
sooner than
the-
later.
I got your email with regards to the fifth Monday, the 30th, but I didn't get that. I don't know why.
This was,
You said something like you were having problems with your computer. I got
Did you
the
get
email
this?
right here, but I don't recall getting
Yeah,
that. You got that?
Yeah, I thought it was a reasonable suggestion. There were about 12 different items.
I didn't see that either.
Yeah, I don't,
Well, maybe I didn't get it.
I will send it out.
no, 3 dots.
Did you get it?
Don't feel at home.
You gotta hit the 3 dots in the email.
Oh, I should have
Down-
told you
it's
about
down,
that.
It's buried down in there.
Those 3 dots throw you
3
off.
dots. There it is.
There's seven areas. One that I'd like to discuss in enhancing policies regarding sections of buildings that are not open to public. Was the informative article in NICOM. You'll give us a copy. Town Village Highway Department Work Projects for 23, Town Village Utilities Project for 23. Town Village Hall Project for 23. Town Village Development Projects underway or upcoming. Any policy or local law items that we could collaborate on, and any grant opportunities that we could apply for jointly. Those are the 7 items.
Do we have anything to say to speak to those issues on the downside? That's it.
So. Yes, maybe I'm gonna ask them to meet with us on the 30th.
It's okay with me.
Joe? John?
Maybe they'll be here, maybe they won't, I don't know. This is the open day.
Yeah, it's 5th Monday.
And maybe they'll say they can't make it because they only get together on 2 Mondays a month.
Yeah, instead of
If we're resolved at a Lions meeting
on Monday nights, Lions Roar.
No.
Tuesday.
Okay,
Tomorrow.
so that's, is there, anybody have anything else under? Do have Danny coming in at 8 o'clock, because I think at the last work session, you wanted a recap of what was going on in the last meeting. So he's coming in. I think Mike Mutter might be coming with him, I'm not sure. But to give you a recap on the storm.
Yeah, we were curious about
Mhm.
publicizing it on the webpage for the town.
Okay, well, let's. Be done.
Look at that, huh? Patty, can you see the people
Yeah.
up in the days?
Yeah.
There's no glare of the sun, is there?
Your ads are like here, but it's good.
Okay, call the meeting of January 9th of the Noosa Town Board to order with roll call, please.
Councilman Dugan.
Here.
Councilman Jandrowski.
Here.
Councilman Burke.
Here,
Councilwoman Pope.
Here,
Supervisor Cummings.
Here.
All present.
Joe, please stand and, Councilman Dugan, would you lead us in the prayer?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, everybody has received a copy of the regular minutes of the meeting on the 29th, and also the organizational minutes of the 2nd. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
second,
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Carried. Agenda changes, we have none. Excuse me, I'm aware of. So we move on to communications.
We received a request for a beer and wine permit from Rebecca Branch for Veterans Park for a family reunion on July 9th. We received a request for a beer and wine permit from Betty Bergman for Skyline Park for a family reunion on July 30th. And we received a letter from Erie County Executive Park polling cars informing us that we were awarded a $25,000 CDBG grant for the senior van of the
Any comments?
That's good news about the van grant for the seniors.
And we'll handle the park requests later on in the meeting, so entertain a motion to receive and file.
So move.
Second,
Second,
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next, we had a organization or a work session after the organizational meeting. It was very short. Discussed, moving along on the noise and event law. John brought up some, building projects with a library and senior center, water issues. Discussed the grants briefly, mentioned that we would be finding out the community development block grant, and we did, which was great. So that's all I have at this point there. Agenda items, any questions on the agenda? Approval of the bills. We have some budget transfers that Colleen has produced. Entertain a motion to approve. Is there a second?
second,
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
aye,
Opposed? Carried. Bills, Doc.
I'd like to propose the following bills to be paid. The A Fund General, $25,000, $25,006.06. The B Fund Outside the Village, $30.02. The DB Fund Highway, $120,226.64. The Knapp Road Water Project, $179,788.08. The refuse, $27,016.76. Sewer District 1, $544.92. Sewer District 2, $150.30. Sewer District 3, $570.47. Consolidated Water, $55.12. For a grand total of $353,388.37.
Is there a second?
second,
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
aye,
Opposed? Carried. Bills are paid. Committee and department head reports. Highway? Jen, you said he gave you,
Yes, do you want me to read it?
would you please?
Sure. He did repairs to number 3 spinner motor. Repairs to number 3 lights, hydraulic line, took a link out on the apron chain. Replaced cable on number 9, new safety lights. Repairs to lights on number 10. Plowed and salted roads and parking lots, pushed back snow with loader, fixed mailboxes. Went to pick up parts, back rack, tire for tractor. Fixed potholes at Howe Road and one on Union Road. Put new benches together, cut up trees and field ditches. Fixed window in barn and main road, cold patched a couple of potholes. Checked for a leak on a fire hydrant on Burdick Road. And worked new number 8 to get it ready to put into service from the Sander and etc.
Okay, any questions? Being none,
Just a question that the numbers that she read are the same as these vehicle numbers on the sheet of information that he gave us. Is that a one-to-one correspondence? This data,
well, number 8, he's replacing that one.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the numbers that are referred to are one-to-one correspondence here, okay.
Yes. I do. Okay, assessor, I don't know what I did with it.
It's right here.
Okay. Lengthy. Hello, everyone. I am still working on the residential portion of the reassessment project. I am hoping to have everything completed and notices mailed by the end of March. This will give us the entire month of April for informal hearings prior to grievance day hearings. Anyone have any questions? Please contact her. Thank you. Next, we have the code enforcement and building department, sign. Drainage. Couple family homes. Permits. Cool. Any questions? Okay,
Monument sign, local storage. That's $0. What was it? Monument sign, has something to do with. I don't know, just curious. Washington Street, Akron, sign LLC. And there was no amount other than zero?
I don't know. I do not know.
No, that's fine, just curious.
That's at the Green Kangaroo.
On Washington Street?
Well, it says Washington Street Akron, but then over here, the property location, the owner is
Oh, it's
Washington Street Akron.
But the
property owner
location is
is
Green Kangaroo on
on
Main
Main
Road.
Road, right.
So it must be local. Look, the amount is absent. I know.
Okay,
Very good.
town clerk,
Nothing at this time.
town attorney,
Nothing at this time.
assistant,
Nothing at this time.
councilperson, Jim Justin.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, first, I guess I'd like to start out with, I talked to Chris Bauer, Hempstead Fire Company, Chuck Heist of the Akron Fire Department. And they would like to thank the town board for helping them out with turnout gear. Do we have a copy of it? We keep, Jen, I have to see you later to get a copy of what the resolution says. I want to email that to Chuck so he can exactly see what it is. I gave him kind of what I remembered on it. I like to have it so he can see it in black and white. So anyways, they were very grateful and thankful for that, both companies. Had a library board meeting, which we discussed a couple things on the building, which I think I discussed at the last work session of applying for a grant for a construction grant like we did with the HVAC system on getting the roof replaced. I don't think we have to get the upper roof replaced, but I think those flat roofs are starting to show a little sign of weathering and wear and tear. So I think if we can get that grant, it might be something worth looking into. It has gotta be what, 22, 23 years old now, probably, somewhere in there. And I also addressed with Christine on when the weather breaks here, that I would be getting quotes for the ceiling of the brick. And being up on the roof, we got a lot of stuff that's blistering up there. The cinder blocks, it's not, it's not faced with brick. I don't know if that's part of the issue. I know we had it done a few years ago, the whole building pretty much. I don't know if we did the upper, I think it was the alleyway and the lower. But it's something that has to be addressed, or at least looked at, before the block starts deteriorating too much.
That's repointing.
No, I don't think it'd be repointed jet dock. I think it's better to probably be sandblasted and then just repainted.
Oh.
But if we don't look at it, then it will be repointing, or sometimes, I don't know how it happens, but those cinder blocks will just rot out. And then you might have to get some mason work done as far as replacing some of the blocks. So I'm just gonna like lump the whole, and Jenny, you don't have to you can vaguely put this down, but Because with the senior center, gotten a couple different conversations with Rick Redmond on a couple issues, and I think everything's okay up there with talking with everybody. I don't know if anybody's reached out with you, Dave, since our last meeting when, you know, on some issues on some of the usage of some,
Mhm.
I just say
No.
toilet paper.
No one has.
Okay. And that was kind of what the issues are up there between toilet paper and some of the snow plowing issues that are up there. I think some of them are getting resolved after talking with Sarah. And the fire company, you know, Rick's doing what he could do as far as, you know, helping out. I think everybody pitches in a little bit. And I don't think it should be a problem. I believe the issues, this is just my opinion now, is since last year and in the beginning of this winter, we've just been getting extreme snow. And I think a little patience has to be, I think everybody has to have a little bit of patience on every side of it. You know, let's get through, you know, I mentioned, and it's been mentioned here on the board, roads come first. And then I think the highway department, for everything that I've heard anyways, it's never been an issue before until this year, basically. On that issue. And again, that's between the town and the fire department when it comes to that. That's something we have to sit down and talk to. So there were some things, and I can't remember what I talked to Rick about, because some of this we probably should go in executive session eventually on it. But there are some things we probably have to readdress in the contract. And get it, some things a little clearer, right, Emily and Mike? Okay. So, other than that, the senior center is pretty good shape. We had some tiles that came down. Some came on the laptops were there, but I think those are being replaced anyways. They got new ones coming in for that, but it didn't damage anything that was there. I stopped to see Dan Qualic during the storm a couple times, talked with him, and also talked with again Chris Bauer and Chuck Heist on how they managed through the storm. And you know, we haven't had a storm like this since the blizzard of '77, really, with the winds and the temperatures and the snow. I mean, we've had heavy snow before, but I think for the most part, in my opinion, again, I mean, my road was opened up within probably 12 hours after it let up, which I don't find too bad, because when I did get out to drive around, you got tractor trailers in the middle of Main Street, you got vehicles in the middle of Main Street. South Newstead was almost impassable. And you had cars you had to work around, and you had to wait for equipment to come in and bust roads open for the guys and get in there. I think our community was pretty patient about it for the most part, because I really didn't hear any complaints on it. That's all we really got. They kind of went off a little bit there, I guess.
No problem.
Mr. Redmond, Rick Redmond, what capacity is he served?
He's an executive board.
He's an
Yeah.
executive
Yeah.
board member.
So he would be dealing more of the part with the senior center than actually like Chris Bauer and the fire.
Yeah, Chris is the chief.
Yes.
And is he the chairman of the executive? Rick Redmond?
Well, I don't know how
I don't know
well,
who is chairman.
well,
Oh, that's all right.
Lewis is president.
Right.
Is that different from the,
Chairman of the exec, yeah,
okay,
it might be Rick. It's not Rick, it's John.
John White.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, thanks.
I did address an email with I think Danny sent out, you know. Some people got stranded at the fire company, and there was an email for help, but I asked, how do you get people there when you can't get out of the house?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but he'll address that later. All right.
Yeah, I know, once I was able to get out, I went up to the fire hall and the guys, there's like 5 guys there and, you know.
Yeah, and
They
I
were
guess,
okay. They
I
were
guess we
okay,
should publicly thank all those people
Well,
that stayed there, the firemen that were going out in those conditions to bring people and get them out of their cars. I talked to Chris Bauer, you know, they were out in their trucks, the pickup trucks going out and trying to get people and the village was going around and at my house, you couldn't see 100 feet for a good 12 to 18 hours. I mean, it was just nonstop.
Dangerous,
Yeah.
dangerous conditions.
So my hats off to the guys that, and the women that were out there doing their best to get people that,
Shouldn't have been out there.
Sure, yeah, right.
well, it's hard to say when they should or shouldn't, because I don't know who was considered essential, where you have to go to work, and I think for the most part, where my daughter works, everybody that's essential was stranded at work, which worked out good for them because they got to maintain that workforce for 3-4 days. But prison guards and other people, you know, they just want to get home to their families, but they put other people in harm's way.
I would say 95% of the people that use the fire hall weren't going to work. Holidays.
Yeah.
Because and Chris commented too, you know, they're on their way from New York City to Toronto.
Yeah, they weren't residents of Newstead principally, were they?
No,
They got the cars cleared pretty
Yeah.
fast. I mean,
They did
once
well.
they had St. Teresa's as a impound center and I stopped in to talk to Mike Mutter and I think Joe Kwolek was there and they were really keeping on it, you know.
okay,
Good people.
Councilman Dugan,
Nothing.
Councilman Burt,
Nothing new.
Councilman Pope,
Nothing.
Supervisor, with the storm, Colleen and I sat in on a seminar, we worked with Danny and a whole bunch of other people, continue to work on the paperwork to get into the FEMA storm. Their timetables are just ridiculous. We had to get all our facts and figures in by Friday afternoon.
By Friday, not the weekend of the storm, the following.
This last Friday,
Just, okay.
which was
1 week.
ridiculous, because you haven't gotten things back yet, but everybody had to put up with that, so you put in estimates, and then once it gets boilerplated down to the actual numbers, but it's just extra work. So ballpark figure is just over $70,000 across the town to date that we're aware of. The storm that's solved, that's food for the fire company, you know, like dry cleaning the blankets, you know, everything.
Did we actually salt?
Yeah, but once again, we have waiting confirmation on exactly what we put in for a whole bunch of stuff. What we get credited for or not is entirely up to FEMA. Some of the rules and regulations just, well, that'll be nice. They're interesting.
They do, I don't know if Mike would have this information or where it came from. How many outside loaders did we have that did we have to pay for?
We had to pay Wargo, I think had 1 or 2.
I think it 2
Count-
Volvos.
County Line had 2.
Okay.
And we received the bill from Wargo. We have not received the bill from County Line yet.
Okay.
And
I
that's
heard, I didn't bring this up, this is all kind of coming back to me now, is that, we possibly could have got 2 snow blowers from Darien. That, you know, the one on a loader, one on a truck, the big blowers. So that's something with the emergency coordinators, when they come in here, we have to kind of. Because Joey Kwolek works for Darien part-time as a code enforcement officer,
Mhm.
and he questioned me why we didn't go and call them, and they would have gladly helped out. I says, well, so I can't answer.
That's a
that
two-way
question.
street
Yeah. I says, I can't
because
answer.
Alden helped out.
Yeah,
Alden helped out on the south end. Well, I know that. But good information for down the road. Just add them to the list.
Things to do,
Yeah.
assessments.
Okay, see, last week I installed the senior center board of directors for another year. had a few discussions with the judges concerning the court hire. And timing of all that, and everything's worked out to their liking.
Do they announce that publicly? Or how is that announced?
It'll be announced after tonight's meeting when we hire them.
Got it.
Also, during the process, there was a driver ban that was taken off last week, and then on the 4th of January, I also took off the state of emergency that we had. The reason we kept that on so long is just to make sure we've got that paperwork in place for FEMA reports, et cetera, that there's no controversy. The less controversy that you have with them, the better off we are. Okay, and that's all I have there. Buildings, John went over under new unfinished business, planning. We just talked in work session about the noise event new law, and we're gonna have something to review within the next week or so. Water sewer, nothing new. Grants, as we pointed out, we received the grant from Communiville, a black grant with a van. So we have new business, no resolutions tonight. Excuse me, I'll entertain I'll entertain a motion to approve the Skyline Park use on July 30th. Second,
Second.
discussion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. C is I'll entertain a motion to approve the Vets Park use on July 9th.
So move.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Here. D, I'll entertain a motion to hire a full-time court clerk, Tara N. Booth, as of the 10th of January at a salary of $22.25. And also hire Sandy Petrowski as needed for training. Second,
Second.
discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Any other new business? Privilege of the floor, anything?
Someone did ask me when are the garbage cans coming out?
We haven't gotten any notification. I believe when we were talking, they were looking in a March timeframe. But
Okay.
I can double check and find out if there's any update from them. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. We'll continue on in work session with the support leaders. Come on down. And our code office. Ooh.
I was planning on staying. I just had a question for Emily. Want me to stay? I'll stay.
Well, no, I don't know.
Yeah, you can stay. You try to help me. Can get you out.
Okay, Danny, floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I won't be too long. I just come from the village. It was 3 hours down there, so hopefully it's a little less here.
You got 15 minutes.
And we'll leave you the key.
Just hand out some information to you folks, so supervisor gets a little bit more. There's some information there. And then basically what this is my general notes from starting on Tuesday all the way up until Monday of last week. And, bullet points, nothing on Patty. I don't know how
I'll put it in my box. That's fine.
Okay. Bullet points of pretty much, my time clock. That'll justify my time sheet that I just gave to the supervisor of what transpired from Tuesday prior to the storm, starting with, emails, blah, 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 all the way up until current, which we're still dealing with after action items such as getting our stuff to the cleaner now to clean our blankets and our sheets from competitors. So. I don't know where you really want me to start, or maybe I will start by asking if you guys got any questions, and then we can go from there, or if there anything specific that you need for me to address. So what went right, what went wrong? I'm gonna ask the committee, probably in the next week or two, we will do an after action with everybody together, because there's two boards, there's the schools involved in it behind the scenes. Obviously, DPWs were involved. The senior center, was a key component in this storm. It didn't work out that well because how the storm hit and everybody was home and it was a holiday weekend. And I couldn't get the staff here to help in our sheltering, needs that we normally have in our plan here for our community. That the senior center is a great component with sheltering, our residents or stranded people, but this storm was unique. I've lived through the blizzard of '77. I was a lot littler at the time, not involved in.
It was
I
fun
am now and playing in it more.
Yeah.
But I did look back through some dialogue all the way back to 2010, 2014, when I got involved in it. With our emergency services in the town, when Dave brought me on board during that storm and all the storms, and there was about 5 similarity component wise that we're still having issues with today that pertain to this storm as it did all the other storms. And this, nothing on the village or the town side, we've improved greatly. With our team here, and I said the same thing tonight to the village board, that we've improved our response capabilities and plans in our local community here immensely. Now, there still were some deficiencies. Obviously, we had a shortage of shelter supplies, obviously. Akron had 100 people at their facility. Newstead had well over 100, and I had 30 to 50 at the church up on Route 5, where, we took sheltering there as well. And we got through it. Everybody did a great job under the circumstances that we had with the visibility, the roads. I don't know how many of you folks were out in it. I was trying to get out in it. I had a job to do. I had to get the sheltering supplies to the facility, which a lesson learned is pre-staging them. But if I would have pre-staged them under our current plan, I still would have been short. Because pre-staging them under our current plan is taking them to the senior center, which is the New Firehouse Senior Center itself. So if I would have put them there, I think I might have been worse off because I couldn't get there to get them some from there to the Akron Fire Hall where we have stranded residents there. So it was like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, based on our storm. And we were very limited with shelter supplies. I only had 48 cots, 48 blankets, and I had enough pillows. Whether you wanted a inflatable pillow, an air pillow, or you wanted a nice fuzzy disposable pillow. And that was it. And with 100 at Akron and 100 in Newstead and 50 some at the church, you do the math real quick, we're quite a few short.
Is that going to force for this pre-staging to have them ahead of time in sufficient capacity to accommodate what you just mentioned, 100? Is there space for that?
Yes,
There is.
yes. The
So that's
facility-
not going to be a problem.
No, I talked to, the Akron Fire Chief, we had a one-on-one meeting already, he wanted to get into the situation, doing after action right away, so we did it on Saturday, so. Roughly, both fire halls are about the same size capacity wise, if you were a renter for a function is like 300, 320 people for a public function. So when you do a sheltering, you gotta spread out, you gotta have more room, you gotta have, room for staff, different things, you still gotta have like an area to congregate in. Other than a pillow and a bed, and I'm sure Joe probably has more expertise than me in sheltering, being in the service. How you hunker down men and people, there's room, there's a formula, I'm sure there is, so. Pre-staging them though, and, well, it's tough, fire halls are not made for shelters. That's come right out and it tells us right in our plan through FEMA, that fire halls are for fire halls and firemen to take care of the, things that they got going on. When you put public people in a fire hall, now that takes away the firefighters from doing their job, which they were doing the rescues. And then trying to take care of sheltering people as well. And, handicapped disability people, we had pets. I know Akron, when I visited their shelter, there was a dog in there. Okay, you can't discriminate against pets. There's protocols that you have to do when you have pets in that, where you gotta get involved with our animal control officers. You know, there's certain things, you know, with pets that you can and can't do at a shelter, because you don't want anybody getting, you know, bit by a dog or something.
Do your folks have a list of medical people who need attention prior to anything like that? For example, dialysis or any other kind of thing? Is there a listing of that, or is that a HIPAA prevented from having?
No, I think what you're asking for, Dr. Burke, is there is a list, like the village for a power outage. There is a list for
The more
power outage
susceptible people
that
without the
have
power.
Oxygen, dialysis and all that.
And we have that for the town.
Yes, the town National Grid should have that. For residents that live in the town, if you are in need of emergency power backup, you are to register your needs on National Grid's website, where they become an essential residence to try to get your service back up and running, or they know that they have to make phone calls to take care of you in the town. The village has one for the village, the town has one. You're supposed to report that information to National Grid.
And it'd be a good thing to have on the town website as a reminder that this is something you need to, it's your responsibility to take care of, either with NYSEG or National Grid, whoever.
Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt.
Preparedness.
I agree.
And I think you're starting to see a lot of more of preparedness, home preparedness and education out there now, that people were not prepared as much as you think they were, for having 72 hours supply of food. That's what they normally tell you, that you're supposed to maintain yourself and your home, your kingdom for 72 hours. You know, you have your water, you have, you know, medical, you have your prescriptions, you have all that.
So when your team finally has the post-operation recommendations, you could dump that onto the Newstead Town website as information.
Yeah.
For the next time, because there's sure going to be another next time.
Yeah.
Maybe not as bad.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah, that is, yes, that information can be shared here, the Bugle's here tonight, Jen's here with the town, yeah, that could be put out at any time, you know, home preparedness, that, you know, residents in our town that have that requirement, that would need that requirement to get a hold of National Grid. You can do it all right online, or you call and people will help you work through it, or a family member. Can do it online.
What triggered the date of the 20th? Was that a U.S. Weather Service saying you better start on this date in
Yes.
preparation?
Yes.
And that came down from
National
Danny
Weather-
Neverett and all.
Yep, National Weather Service to Erie County, and then Erie County, I send out these 7, 8 nice colorful photos that you get, and then it increases from there. It was, you know, it was pretty much tying right in on our community. And then when it went from storm, you know, it went up to a watch, and then when it hit blizzard on Thursday night, you know, it was like, you better be ready, because it's coming, you know.
It didn't disappoint.
No. And I started making phone calls, as you can see in my timeline there. I talked to Sarah, you know, she was ready at the community center. We talked about food. We talked about, you know, bringing the limited amount of cots that I had, the limited amount of blankets and pillows, you know, everybody was.
That's the pre-staging.
Pre-staging, yeah. We talked about that. I was on the phone with her. I was talking to the fire chief. Emails were sent out to, you know, the board with the weather reports and some of my preliminary, you know, contacts, talking with the snow seekers, which, you know, is a key component. And legal, I'm gonna ask if legal, and we can try to get some MOUs drafted that,
Rescue operations,
yes.
utilizing their
snow seekers
personnel.
who use that, their resources that they have. Snow Sneakers is an organization which, you know what they're mainly for, snowmobiling and
Yeah.
grooming, but their, resource that they have 3 of their groomers. One was in the shop getting service, getting ready for the season. The other one was utilized until educated drivers, the trained drivers. Wasn't comfortable with driving it under the conditions that he was facing, he parked it. And then the other driver, we ran him around the clock, that basically I heard tonight, and I didn't know this until after talking to the village tonight. When I asked him to go get John Cummings, John had to help him get back because he was nodding off and practically falling asleep, getting him and two other stranded motorists back to the highway garage, where then John pulled him inside, told him, go to bed, get inside, let your machine thaw out and get some sleep. Unfortunately, probably within 2 hours, I ended up calling him again, because I had to go down and try to get the stranded state trooper that was down on Martin Road, Chris Milham, out of there for over 25 plus hours before he could get rescued. Which he had a snowmobiler that became a rescue, that had to get rescued because the snowmobiler got to him and he got stuck. He couldn't get the snowmobile back out away from the trooper car to get Milham back to the village or back to the town or to a house somewhere to get him rescued back in the community, plus the two people that the trooper was going to rescue, so I ended up with 4 people there. But the groomer, and I'm gonna meet with the snowmobile club this Thursday at 7 o'clock, talking about some of these legalities, I guess, that, and I don't know, I can only assume that under a state of emergency, if there's an agreement in place, it would release some liability, I guess, if we ask this organization to help us based on their resources that they have, such as their groomers. Because all the talk shows that you've been hearing about is where were the snowmobiles, where were the snowmobiles clubs, where were their groomers? Which is a key piece of equipment that I'm working on right now, and Dave, I CC'd you on a letter that I sent to several local political affiliates, all the way up to senators, and I got a reply back from Senator Holly, and I gotta meet with their staff tomorrow at the library. I'm trying to get the cabin passenger that goes onto the back of the snow groomer that'll carry 12 people instead of 3 people. And the example that I'm using is when we rescued John Cummings on Martin Road, the trooper was 1.5 miles down on the other end of Martin Road, and I didn't know about it until I got John back in the barn. And then the communication got to me, the trooper was still down there after numerous attempts trying to rescue him with a snowmobile, the town plow, and other people that lived by there, even a farmer in a tractor, still couldn't get him to safety. So with the groomer and a communication thing we can work on, it was one of our downfalls in the community, I'm gonna tell you, was the lack of some communication where we could have did better on. As such as rescuing the trooper. If I'd have known the trooper was still down there, I knew he was down there. I thought he was rescued, but I didn't know he was still there when I went and got John. That the groomer could have swam over, got him and got everybody, and brought them all back in one shot.
I think that's key, right, the communication, because I think when I talked to you, I didn't think the trooper, you just told me the car was there, I think you
Right.
thought the trooper was
Rescued,
yeah.
yeah.
The principal means of communication was cell phones, everybody.
Correct, yes.
There weren't
Yes.
any other sort of radio.
No, there is, and you bring up a very good important part here. There is communication here that the 3 emergency managers can directly communicate with the highway. We have them radios in our vehicles that highway has, and we can directly talk. So we didn't utilize that at all, which I want to do some testing on to make sure. I know it works because I've used it in previous storms. I talked directly with Mikey and I've got previous storm updates from highway. So I knew, this time I did not do it. I didn't ask, we were communicating via cell phone and texting and email.
Was the old denial the base of your communication hub?
It was, for a limited use, which we lost, there was no internet down there. When I did go down here to hook up, we had no internet, because
Loss of power?
you got internet in your community, our internet went out.
Ours, yeah, Ours went out for,
Black.
in the evening, but it's back on.
Right.
Sometime in the middle of the night.
Right, so the next day I did go down there, it was still out and it burned out, well, we assumed it burned out the modem. Cause I had, right, John? Jennifer worked with me on this, we had Nick involved, the IT from the town. He come down and checked it out, he was okay on this end, but in the meantime, John had set up that I met Spectrum down there the following Saturday to get it up and running. Cause I did go down there and I ended up working off of my employment, my own company hotspot, which, you know, worked out well once I got down there, but to be very honest, I was very nervous of going down there at the beginning. Because with the 70-mile-an-hour winds, see, I got it set up down there and I take my computers and my books and binders with me. I was nervous about getting set up, because if I'd got set up and the village power would have went down, I'd end up back home. So I just stayed at home, you know, I functioned at home.
So you have a generator at home to supply power if the
Yes.
village goes down.
Yes, I was able to run home. Backup plan was my house to take care of my generator with my family, and I was still able to do business here. So, and one side it was nice because I did have sort of a Christmas, you know, at some point at home, you know, with my family. But then, you know, I was up and running, I was locked up in my office, you know, I was both down in there with my phones, communicating with Joey, communicating with the fire chiefs, communicating all the communications that I sent out to you folks. Online 24/7 with the county through D-Land. Dr. Burke, you know what D-Land is, Joe, you
Yeah.
know what D-Land is. So we utilize that a lot through this process. You know, the tickets, the information, the state of emergency, the driving ban documents, you know, they're all in here. The D-Land documents are all in here, you know, this is I was my own secretary and everything, this is the portfolio from the storm of paperwork that was generated, you know, through the storm between us and you folks and local government, the village as well, so.
So when the county polling cars lifted the state of emergency, then effectively that ended the emergency of your,
Not per se, and I don't even know if the county has lifted there yet, I don't get them correspondence, I don't know, Dave, unless if you heard if they.
I haven't heard
And
yet.
I don't know if the state's even lifted it yet. So I don't know if they have, I know we did locally here. We lifted it, but the storm after action stuff is still going on, you know, obviously funding's still going on, we're gathering funding. You know, the FEMA's still the funding, no, I was not on the press conference Friday. Was it good news, bad news? Were you on it, Dave?
Mhm.
So I don't know where that's all at, eligibility, I don't know, I don't.
I was there for an hour and a half and I'm still not sure where we are. Colleen sat in on it too, and we just,
So Dan, I think
we
like,
don't have all the answers.
for the most part, a lot of things went okay or well considering the circumstances. So the issues that I think I wrote down is cots, making sure we can get them utilized sooner, and if we have to purchase some more. I don't know how you purchase for that, because once, you know, how long are you gonna sit around for, right? And the other one is, I think that the key one, which might be the hardest thing, is staffing. You know, to get, especially on a Christmas weekend, you got people leave their houses.
Yep.
To go out and stay at the fire hall or wherever, because that's a good point. I did talk to Chris on that too, because he said the same thing, and so did Chuck. You're sitting there trying to take care of people, but you got a job to do outside of there yet
Yep.
too, and it was very stressful for them. So the staffing part, that's, I think, to me, that's probably the most important thing, to make sure there's someone there to keep people safe, to feed people, and
And I talked to the fire chiefs, I got, you know, I asked them, you know, constructive criticism, or, you know, you talk about all these things afterwards, you know.
well, Chris will give it to you straight.
Huh?
Chris will give it to you straight.
Yeah, I understand that. You know, you got organizations under your own fire department, okay, so you've got your ladies auxiliary, you've got your exempts club, you know, where any of them use, and then did you reach out to your local, veterans, you know, American Legion post and the VFW post, you know, did you reach out to them? Did you put a thing on Facebook? Hey, we're looking for a few volunteers, but you gotta keep in mind, you don't wanna put that, we talked about that. You don't wanna put that out there because of the travel ban. Okay, so
Yeah,
if you put something on, I call it Spaceland, Facebook, if you put something out there. And a chief sends this tweet out or a posting out there on social media. And a person gets in a wreck under a travel ban, going to the fire hall, willing to help out. I'm sure there's some legal responsibilities there that I saw it on Facebook from the fire chief asking for help. Okay, so you got a fire chief under state of emergency can do that, can ask for help, can delegate people to help them. You know, have contractors come in and help you under the state of emergency. But you sort of gotta be careful on how you do things, because they could come back to haunt you.
well, I think,
You know, if somebody gets hurt or in an accident, hits, you know, another.
Unless you do it
especially
before
when
the-
you're
yeah, I think you have to
Storm.
have this set up ahead
That's
of
part
time,
of the
yeah.
pre-staging.
Correct.
You
And
gotta
that was the whole
change
reason
that.
why I sent the email out to you folks, not that I know that, I wanted to know if you were going on vacation or something. It was more that I knew staff wise, that if this thing really ramped up, who was gonna be around. That I needed either some quick answers on or some staffing and all that, which I'm sure everybody in this room would have helped in some capacity, no matter what. But trying to get from your own homes, I couldn't get from the village, from my house to the Akron Fire Hall. I had to plow my way down Main Street to get more supplies to the fire hall. So I could try to get Terry Lots out of his house with 2 stranded cars in Chestnut Street in the village. And this is hardly even heard of in the village. You know, you can't even maneuver in the village to the store, to open the store. So we can get the firemen down, you get food to the shelters and feed the people that are stranded and then back home. See, once I got all that information to me, we had a plan, we instituted a plan. John Cummings plowed his way around the cars, they pulled him out of the way, went and got Terry. Plowed the Pixley parking lot out with Cam Criswell as a subcontractor. And then once I knew that this was all in place, we set up that we were going to Pixley's at 10 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon to get food for the shelter people in the morning and the afternoon. So we had plans, you know, on it, and it all worked out very well. We're getting great feedback from these residents that were stranded from the East Coast, which they ended up on our roads because somebody closed the thruway. They closed the thruway in Batavia. So what does your radar tell you to do when you're going to Niagara Falls? The next best road is Route 5, Route 93.
Right.
So where did they end up? 90% of our people at Akron, I haven't got new statistics yet where they were coming from, but I'm sure it's gonna be the same. We're traveling, got off the thruway and went through our community. Now, this is an ongoing thing. This has been happening with all the storms. I've been attending the meetings on behalf of our local community when they do close the 90, because we do get that traffic. And obviously this storm showed that we do. When we got the trucks stayed on Route 5. They were able to get going the next day. We didn't tow one single truck.
They had told one on South Newstead.
The one on South Newstead, but we didn't end up towing it. The private contractor,
Oh,
their
okay.
towing agency ended up coming and getting it. Now, we ended up towing, we had originally 60 cars, we ended up towing 26 or 27. Mike Motter, the deputy, our deputy, took care of that whole towing.
Yeah, they went pretty good, I think.
Yep, and I set that up on Christmas Eve.
There's only one that stayed on
Leave it at
Clarence Center Road for an extended period of time.
We didn't know about it.
Oh, I should have called you.
Yeah, we didn't know about it.
So next time, are these cars marked? Weren't you tagging them?
Yes,
Okay,
what we were afraid of, that we were gonna find somebody when the weather broke that wasn't able to make a phone call, get help with a cell phone being dead in their car, or not moving, or an elderly gentleman that doesn't have the capabilities or doesn't have cell phone service that went off the road and got totally buried. Obviously, the car wasn't found for a couple days. The vehicle got totally buried. So by me marking the cars, told the highway, told the state police, told the sheriffs, that anybody was in our area, that was the sign that that vehicle was checked and it was free of anybody in it. Now, that's all part of, you know, some of these FEMA classes that I take, these disaster classes that I take, that you see these during the hurricanes, when they paint on the front of your house, they put a big box and they put X's. Now, I know how to do all that too. It all means something. It all means occupant time. There's a system, that's in place. So that was the system of tagging the cars. And it worked very well in West Seneca from the very first storm we had this year in November, 8th or 9th or somewhere around there. That's what they did when the 90 closed, everybody got off, and that's what they did down there. Yeah. The towing agencies, I knew we were gonna need it. I was on board on D-Land, we put that request in and we got it, but the only thing that I had to do is we had to verify the location of the car. And we had to have a description of the car, because the towing agencies were coming in from out of town, which they did, or even out of state. That's where the county was pulling resources in from Pennsylvania, so we could have ended up with a towing agency in our community that was from Pennsylvania. Well, you had to give them an address, because everything is on, Google, they push it in, they'll get you close, or between the two cross streets, so. With the help that I got from DPW and myself or Joey or Mike, driving, around the community and tagging all these cars, that list had to be ready for me by Monday morning. I think it was Monday we started towing the cars. So by 7 o'clock Monday morning, the towing agencies were gonna hit our community. They were gonna start to open up the roads, and then we could get the plows back out, because the state told me, Dan, until you move your cars in your community and you're on these state roads, we're not plowing your road. So that was one of the reasons why 93 stayed partially closed down there. But the good thing was the towing agency was coming from Ransomville. So they come in this way, and on their way in, they grabbed 3 of the 4 cars right out of the ditch. So once I knew they had 3, phone call to the state, the plows were en route and they had that open. That's all the coordination and cooperation that was going on, behind the scenes here to get our streets up.
There were no fatalities in the town of
No,
Newstead
there
Road.
was not. There was not one fatality, which is.
Were there many that had to be shipped to hospitals after things opened?
The fire departments, they did transport a couple people
Couple.
throughout the storm. We had Newstead had one.
How'd they do
seizure
that?
or a stroke at Newstead Fire Hall. They transported one. Yeah, and Akron transported one out of the trailer park in the backseat of the chief's vehicles to Clarence.
Which roads were kind of kept open for emergency purposes?
5 and 93.
593?
Yeah, and
Because you're-
under our,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, under our hazardous mitigation plan that we all just approved this past year, that was one of the things that we had to put in that plan. And they pulled it out, the county had it out at the EOC, because we got called about it, saying, Dan, is your emergency roads open? I go, we're working on it. Because they wanted to know, to get ambulances and resources, could they travel from Batavia, from Albion, from whatever, because they wouldn't allow them on the 90. Could they get down Route 5 and get to Village Suburban and get into Amherst and into Clarence? So all that planning that they asked for come into fruition for this storm.
I think it worked pretty good for the most part. We were talking a little bit before you guys came in. And for people who don't really move snow, they don't realize what this snow was. It was like a concrete wall in areas. And then underneath there was an inch of slush and ice. So everything was just tough going from start to go on.
Yeah.
And I think I can speak for everybody that we really appreciate everything the fire companies and you guys have done through this.
Second motion, here.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, there was like, well, you lived down the road for me.
Yeah.
Did you come down and plow our road? Was
Yeah,
that what you did?
actually, for me to get home, I was stuck at work for 3 days. I ended up taking the county truck and plowing it.
Two of you.
That's it. I
I
ended up
thought-
plowing
that was
down
pretty
and so,
impressive. Boom, it was done just like that. So,
Yeah, we're gonna have continued, I'm gonna have a after action plan, a meeting within the next 2 weeks. I'm just trying to get a date together. So I can get, everybody together, because I gotta hear some more, what went right, what went wrong out there. Improvement on between us and here in the room here. Me and Mike, the communication has to be open a little bit more, and I know Mike, I know what he's got to do, he's got to plow the roads, he has a job to do too. But I really lean on him, or Mike needs an assistant at the highway garage that I can communicate with, because there was some answers that I needed that I had to push up through the county for resources and accessibility of our streets, that information needs to be sent on to me. So,
yeah,
somebody working behind the scenes at the highway department would be a strong recommendation from me to the highway department. Now, I know it's a holiday weekend, the highway department was closed. I took one or two phone calls about roads not being plowed at my building down there. At the public safety building, they called that number, so I logged all that to make sure. And then I let Mike know the next morning, and he knew that it was already clean, it was shut road or something, wasn't plowed.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dan. I think part of the problem is just the lack of communication on things and people get it was overwhelming, is the best way to put it. But still, I think we could, as a board, we could use a little more information. We realize you can't be out there when you can't see. We
Yeah.
don't want big trucks going off, and which I think a couple did get stuck and they had to be pulled out. And but as a board member, I'd like to be kept in the loop, like what the plan is, right? You know, we can't be out there now, but when we can get out there, what is our plan? This is what we got going on. We got, Dave said something earlier, we hired loaders from Wargo and then from county line. I don't know, and the county came in. It'd be just nice to know when we get the green light, this is what we're gonna do.
And all that stuff through this DLAM process, you know, I put the tickets in for the tow trucks, I had them the next day. I put tickets in for the shelter, I put tickets in for the DOT. That stuff was all put in and we were getting them. I haven't got my shelter stuff back, you know, I put in for more sheltering equipment, you know, at the end of the storm here. I've asked for more, you know, it's in writing to the county that we need more in our municipality. You know, that's all out there. I put all that out there. 93 around the fire hall, if you drove through the village, like almost all the way to like Wednesday or Thursday. You know, if you were driving a tractor trailer trying to make the S curves going through the village to get down to Perry's or whatever, it was jammed right up and it's.
It
really
stayed
not-
like that for quite a while.
Yeah, it's really not John's responsibility, that's a state highway and state's
Yeah.
supposed to. So I told John I was putting that in and I put it in. And it went up to the state, but we never got them, they never come out. Or they sent a supervisor out and they had more fires, a bigger fire to fight, could be, you know, it was navigable,
Yeah.
but it wasn't quite up to par. You know, but that information back, like the village bulldozer, like they had bulldozers, they pulled them out of the county, they come from wherever. You know, that was free, like the towing agency didn't cost us nothing there. You know, the county did all that, it was all on their dime. You know, for right now, and now after what Supervisor Cummings said tonight about, you don't know about funding. You know, but that resources are all available, under these big storms, as early as you can give me that information, the faster I can get the request and they get it here, whether it comes or not. You know, we can always turn it away. It's like a big fire, that's where a lot of fire trucks, you can always turn them away. You know, if you don't need them later on, but that communication on the municipal side of the DPW, like blowers. Or more loaders or whatever, you know, you pawn that off, so.
So overall, you feel that the D-Land and the personnel upstairs supplied Newstead reasonably well, we came out.
Yeah.
So it was an effective program.
Yes,
And the principal aspect is the pre-staging that you're saying needs to be addressed in more detail.
but we need more equipment, we need more sheltering supplies.
And the problem
And
is the
village
storage.
Tonight as well, they knew they were short as well, you know, like, there should have been some cots at DPW. For the highway guys to spend the night,
Sure.
you know.
Where are
stay
they going to
there,
be
but
stored?
Would have been a little more comfortable than sleeping in the cab of the truck or whatever, if they would have stayed that night or whatever. You know, that's not my decision, I don't
Right.
run the highway department, I don't tell them what to do. But have the supplies available to make it a little more comfortable for the employees that may have to stay, could have had something to sleep on, but. You know, we just got these 40 cots, I just got them like a year ago, the county was giving them up and I asked for some and that's all they gave me. You know, I got MREs now, we did get some supplies from Batavia reached out to me and wanted to know if we not want anything, and I take anything for free. So my building down here is getting quite full of stuff. You know, we got boxes of food down there now, MREs, I've never had one, I have no idea, Joe, you probably. Get your eyes off of them, I ain't got many.
What did the county do for you guys as far as when you were spending the night there?
We only had a handful of cots and most of it just slept in pickup trucks.
Okay.
So. We actually pulled our personal trucks inside the garage and then we slept in their trucks. So,
Wow.
and I hardly got any sleep, 1-2 hours and that was it.
Yeah, it's hard to sleep.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that. I mean, anytime there's snow out there. I mean, you probably don't sleep good when you know you gotta go and when you gotta plow anyways, right? I mean, it's a very stressful job.
Especially when you can't see, and we actually had an incident where we got told that a vehicle flipped on Barnum and Clarence Center. So Chris was actually in a plow truck trying to get out, he got stuck, so I took the loader, tried to go down Salt Road. And I couldn't see where I was going, I actually had to turn around because I was going off the road,
Yeah.
driving blindfolded.
Yeah, there was a resident we got on Facebook where they were trapped upside down in the ditch.
So I couldn't go anywhere, I would have been another thing.
You know, we were trying to get to them once I got the information through Facebook. You know, that's how they were posting these rescues were, because I asked Chucky, how did you get that information that people were stranded? It was Facebook, because somebody traveling through the area had no idea what to call, other than 911, and the 911 system was totally overwhelmed.
I think in real time, it went really good when you're in real time, when it's easy to sit back and look at things. And I don't know, so the people, and there's really no excuse. Other than I brought up that, some people are considered where they have to be to work. But you can't include me on this or Doc, but most people have a smartphone. When you get in an area, your phone's gotta be blowing up on weather alerts. And I guess people who aren't from the area, like you said, didn't realize probably what they were getting into. And it comes down to the point, I believe, you hate to say it, but when it gets like that, it's kind of every man for themselves, because you can't go risking your life all the time, even though you're geared to do that as firemen and that.
Yeah. And we did, and they, Newstead ended up, their UTV ended up on South Newstead Road, dead in the middle of the road. It died out and they continued on. I put that in my report. They continued on the rough way, hiking it in, and getting people as best they could out of their vehicles.
Well, the biggest plus I've heard is nobody died. That's huge.
Yep.
Yes.
Just a couple real quick points that I had here. Another question for legal is that they come up, and it really come up a lot more during the storm, is the liability of my personal vehicle or the 3 emergency managers' personal vehicles under the state of emergency. As we were out there doing our jobs, and it's never been talked about before. I've always thought about it in my position for the last 17 years here, is if something happens, am I gonna be okay with my personal vehicle? Damage wise or something. I know we're under state of emergency, it's a little bit different, there's a little more latitude there. But I know Mike used his personal vehicle because we were tagging these vehicles, Highway was doing their things. It's a job that needed to be done. It was based on life safety, that if we had somebody out there, I didn't want, there's a chance to save them, somebody's life, and needed to be done. So, it wasn't that I was out joyriding, but it makes me a little nervous, especially during the storm, was because, people were traveling and they shouldn't have been traveling. You just tell me, yeah, the town's gonna cover me, I'll feel much safer, comfortable, I guess. It's always come up, because I got my books, my paperwork, my radios, my communication, it's my command vehicle, it's like a chief's vehicle.
Your 58 cents a mile doesn't cover that? Your 58 cents a mile doesn't cover that?
You know what, folks? I turned the timesheet in tonight and I think there's 67 miles on there. I probably traveled 670 miles. I don't worry about that. I do it for the community. I've said it before, you folks said, but I was a little nervous during this storm, the conditions that I was in, if I'd have got hit or somebody would have hit me. I had Dave, Dave was a key resource. He was in communication with me, talking. He was beating me up for a task. I give him a task and he can't get to help me out. He couldn't get out of the village to help me, but Dave, thank you though, because I did reach out to him that he was gonna go to the shelter and help out, and he could have helped in the vehicles, and taking the vehicles, driving around, taking them out with a town vehicle. Dave, thank you for allowing me. I know I reached out to you that, talking about the 2 spare highway vehicles that were sitting, the dog catcher and the spare CEO vehicle, but something that we can work on down the road is I really would like to put, the town vehicle, equip it a little bit better, I guess, for emergency response. And have it a little more versatile here at the town, that during these storms that I could, maybe put my stuff in there and be able to use it other than my vehicle. You know, depending on, you know, legal, if it's gonna be okay with how I operate. But it's really outside of a state of emergency. There are other things that I respond to and do in our community here, you know, all the fires that I go to, the bigger accidents and all that stuff, you know, just legally wise, am I okay? You know, or we okay, I should say, including the board, you know, because if something happened, obviously, you're gonna be involved in it.
Yeah, what about us?
When do you anticipate, you said in a couple of weeks, this closure meeting among all of the important people at school, and you mentioned a whole series of them.
Yeah, I'm shooting for within the next 2 weeks.
Right.
This week.
Where is that going to be held?
I'm gonna hold it down at my facility so I can show everybody, I want you folks to see how I have it all set up down there where we were doing the D-land. My whiteboard's all marked up, all my stuff's down there, you know, all my maps, my drawings, my weather reports. So it's an operational center, that's what it was for, and that's what I had it set up for. You know, I was nervous without having power down there, so it's still very important to try to get, you know, pushing for a generator.
Well, I think we talked, it just kind of got put on the back burner, I believe, because we went for the grant. And I remember,
Yeah.
I believe, Dave, that you said there's no reason we still can't move forward just because we didn't get the grant on it. And it
That's
just got on the back burner.
Yeah, that's got a kitchen there, you know, cause I know I was communicating, and thanks to Rick Lorcell, and that was another thing that. You know, Akron Police really helped me out under the state of emergency. They were our local police force here, whether they were in the town or the village. I tasked them to the town to help me out. Again, on the state of emergency, I think I can do that. You know, they were a great asset, because the state police, Sturmer's car was stuck here, Milham's car was stuck down there. Come to find out, there was 5 state trooper vehicles in cars in our town that were stuck, trying to help, you know, either doing rescues or we're trying to get home, or they were trying to get here, trying to get to Clarence. And the sheriffs were tied up downtown with bigger problems that they had. The sheriff and the Erie County sheriffs were all down there, so our police agency was accurate.
I don't think we have SUVs, the state police anymore. They're all in cars.
They're all in cars,
So
yeah.
that's like,
Yep.
No good. Do you anticipate that meeting to be restricted to the public? The meeting that you're planning on holding down denial?
Yeah, it was gonna be just to the email group that I send out, our team of 23 or 25. I have not passed out to the public,
This one
going
you
after
see?
actually
No, that one.
meeting with the public. I feel it's more important right now to get our bigger team together. I broke up with the village, and I broke up with you folks. I've talked to the fire chief,
Just
today,
right
I
on
talked
the
to the
road.
snow leaders on Thursday.
on the road.
If that generates a report or something, could that be sent
So
to
that must
the
be
board
Howard
members on an
or-
email or something?
Have Sunday.
Yeah,
So
Probably
we-
tonight in the meeting, I'll ask for a snag.
Or something,
Yeah.
the general idea.
During COVID, I think, remember during COVID, we had a meeting, doctor, during COVID, we had somebody, I think Christine out of here did the notes for me.
Nice disguise.
Yeah, I do need a personal secretary, if anybody's looking for a second job during these storms. My fingers are a little, yeah,
This isn't you, is it?
no, that was on Route 5.
That's Joe, that's
Oh,
Joe.
state line, okay.
Yeah, with that truck getting stuck in the van ahead of it, that's why the church ended up with 30-some people, because of that plow. And the people that were traveling he almost hit the car in the van, they were all sideways crooked on Route 5, which totally gridlocked Route 5, which put all them people in the church.
Oh, it's a decent place.
And the
Usually in a storm, you're saying a hell of a lot of prayers.
And the funny thing is, the fire company commandeered the church. They got the Knox box. They got to the Knox box at the church. They opened up the key, opened up the church door, and made themselves at home. They got inside, and Christian, the pastor called Ron Martin, the pastor at the church, says, Ron, I got some people stranded at your church. You know, so you don't have to come, because in that when they all got stuck there, they ended up with 2 paramedics in Twin City. They were trying to get an ambulance out here, so they had key first aid staff at the church, and then the church, obviously, we had to feed them, so.
That's Faith Fellowship on Route 5,
Yes, yeah.
and the
They-
pastor's name is
Ron Martin,
Mark.
and he's had nothing but email that all the people that were stranded there are looking for where to donate and all that, and I said, donate to the church as far as I know.
I mean, I think for the most part. I don't know how you can really do much better, other than to talk about it and get it better, but. Because like, if you think about like, how do you get people to the church if they take them on the groomer? This, I mean, like, I'm thinking now, like St. Teresa's, I don't know what it looked like, but I know it's the one at South Newstead and the Mennonite Church looked like, there was like 3-4 feet of snow.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, can we use churches as places too, like the one you use down in Clarence? But getting them there and getting people to man them, because I think all the churches have kitchens too.
Mhm.
And diffuse.
Yeah.
A lot of places you lay down.
A lot of them don't have backup power, so.
Yeah,
Our key shelter
South Newstead
area
does.
is the senior center and Newstead Fire Hall, and I gotta sort of stated that plan, I can't be going.
well, no, I'm not saying,
Getting 4 or 5 other places involved, it's just gonna get too chaotic, it'll get out of control, and I won't be able to control a shelter. And shelters need to be controlled, there's a process when you do a shelter.
I get that part of it, Dan, but I'm saying that sometimes any port in a storm, because
Yeah.
you're trying to, this is like, they said, this is like a once in a generation. Well, I've been through 2 of them now, and a lot of people here have.
Yeah.
And then you throw the October storm in, you know, to me, the October storm was the more damaging storm than any storm we've really had as far as
I give up
damaging.
doing the early morning.
Well, Wednesday night, when we had a conference call with the county. An emergency manager, Red Cross was on, asked Red Cross, are you gonna be able to handle this storm? Red Cross said no. So we knew Wednesday night that we were not gonna get additional resources from Red Cross to take care of the possibility, the magnitude of this storm.
Yeah,
So we knew that they come right out and told us, that we were gonna defend from our own, and we did. And everybody did a great job.
the huge part of the storm was not losing power. There are a lot of elderly people that I don't know if they would have made it through it. Cause I talked to people who had their furnaces going full bore. When you get 60-70 mile an hour winds, when it's 4 degrees outside. Their furnaces were just barely keeping it 60-65 degrees to keep up with it on the older homes.
I was nervous about that, cause knowing what was in the shelter, stranded motorists. And that's why I was constantly, and Dave was watching it too, the National Grid outage. We peaked out at what, 300 maybe in our town, and it was maybe the southern part of the town. And once that started coming back down and we weren't losing no more, the winds were coming down, I could actually start to doze off a little bit. I was getting, I was nervous because I knew the shelters were at 100 people. And then if we started having more people in our town, where were we gonna go?
Yeah.
We couldn't go nowhere. Then I was going, I had my church resources list pulled out with all the pastors, who were in charge of them churches, ready to go, that I was gonna start making some phone calls that, in South Newstead corridor, okay, we're gonna put them in that church. We get some over here, we're gonna go to, was it Solid Rock or the one on Crittenden Road, then we got the other one at the 5 Corners, so that resource, I was pulling that all out, getting ready, but, now I needed more people to get them. I didn't want them in their houses, so it could have been a lot worse.
How many people do you know that just someone from where they went to someone's homes? Do we have a number on that where people took people in or not?
I don't. I know John Cummings, he had 2, because when the groomer come back, it was him and 2 in the front of there, and the driver really like put 3 people in there, and somebody sat on somebody's lap 5 miles an hour from here to here. It was a smooth ride. The thing rides like a Cadillac, plus it was driving on 6 foot of snow. And it was just floating along. But on the groomer, the political thing is I'm really pushing for that 12 passenger box on the back of it. You probably see them like in, out west on ski slopes and all that in Colorado, Montana. And the groomer, we've been trying to try to fund it, try to get it granted and fund it. Is it Haley? Haley's office, they replied back to me that she sent me, you can check out Holly's office, you can check out these 2 websites, and do it. I really wasn't looking for that answer. I was looking for big dollars, big funding, from the top down, because it went all the way to the president's desk, there's a lot of money out there. But the groomers, we're gonna try. I got a personal goal to get one of them in our community. It's about $80,000 to put it on the back of our existing groomer, but every single storm, I pulled out the documents, snow seekers, groomer, snow seekers, groomer. The capacity 12 or 15 people other than three,
Makes a
it
difference.
just makes sense. You know, they were going down Main Road, they had to go to Main Road, they had to turn around, and come back into the barn with two people. Then go back at 5 miles an hour. You know, putting a box on the back of the groomer, which the groomer can handle, it's built for it. You know, I'm just looking for $80,000, if anybody's got any money to put that on the back of it
You said there are 3 of these groomers
in our area.
accessible in our area,
Yep.
not
Accurate.
specifically New State.
No. It groomed, it could go otherwhere else, but I like it, it's here, it's stationed here.
We have one in the town.
Three of them, right here in this town.
I did understand you then. We had 3, but
Yeah,
one
3
was out of commission.
Yep, and the other one, the driver got nervous and parked it.
Got that. So there was the third one, the guy almost went
Yeah,
48 hours without
Yeah.
sleep.
and you gotta be certified to drive it. It's like driving a town plow. You have to have training and be certified to drive it. And it's all volunteer. That organization is all volunteer.
Where are these groomers housed?
One was the one that we use here was at DeWicko's Farm on Clarence Center Road, and Kelkenberg had one, and the other one was in the repair shop.
So they're privately owned,
The organization
No,
owns
Snow
the
Sneakers.
club.
no seekers
Snow
own
Seeker
them,
owns
and they're housed there.
Yep.
So it's through their beneficence that we have access to them.
Correct, and I was asking legal tonight under an MOU that we can use them
On,
under the direction and then their liability, because that's what they're nervous on.
sure, understandable. So that's definitely going to be an item for your meeting.
Oh, so are there used ones anywhere? These ski resorts or whatever they use, I mean,
Well, it's funny you ask. The last storm in 2014, the guys were headed to Wisconsin for $2,000. They found a used one. They told the guy, he saved it for them, they were gonna go, and the club said, we don't have the money, are you buying it? And the guy said, no, I'm not buying it. For $2,000,
wow.
we could have had one in 2014, a used one, and then local machine shops or whatever, we're gonna modify it and put it on the back. Yeah,
I still think that's maybe a good resource to go, especially if we got people that'll help get us where we need it to be.
that's what it looks like. As all it is like a back of a box that goes on the back of the existing fully groomer. So instead of getting 1 or 2 people at a time, it'll take up 12 or 15 people in there. And it's heated.
Can you make one out of plywood and stick it on? I mean, why you gotta spend $80,000 on it?
All time.
It's a lot of plywood.
I don't think the insurance company or legal staff wants to hear me.
The more and more I looked at it today is, I have a brainstorm that I gotta find an old fire truck with a cab and modify it and put it on the back of the groomer. I'm thinking outside the box here. But sometimes you gotta, But that's, that's one thing, and it keeps coming up and up and up again, and
Well, just get a school bus and put tracks on it.
yeah,
You don't want to break your record down at the village, do you?
break my record.
Well, I thought you said you had 3 hours at the village.
Yeah, you're way over now.
I know, I'm
But
sorry,
it
but
was good information, really.
Yeah.
was.
And I'll leave it like I left them. Is there anything that I need to do or the emergency managers need to do to make it easier on you folks, if me and my boss and Joey's boss on communication? You could tell us in the meeting
not for
here, you
me.
could send me an email or, I'm sure there's some things that, we may have did wrong that we need to do better on.
I know when I call you, you answer the phone. So
Joe
that's-
wasn't here.
I was trapped in Watertown,
I don't.
going under the same, yeah, it hit them just as hard.
I think just being accessible, Dan.
Yeah, that,
Which you are.
once,
Yeah.
but this is a one generational kind of thing, but, I mean, the best way you're gonna stay ahead of something like this is preemptive. So I guess if we're gonna make the call, it should have been Thursday, probably Wednesday, Thursday at the latest. Hey, we need to set up shop somewhere. Obviously, we want to set up at your house, well, not your house, but the denial, right? But what if they lost power? Right, which makes more sense setting up something in here, when you kind of open up the room, we have the generator here, we have. Somewhat facilities here, we have Pixley's right next door. But when do you make that call?
I'll.
Because
agree with you.
it's a coordinated effort that we're talking about now, everybody checks in here. I don't know, it seems like we were more.
Mhm.
And it's hard, we were more reactive than proactive. And it's hard with a storm as widespread as it, this wasn't dumped and done, and now we kind of react to it. This was sustained. That's hard.
I don't disagree with you, but all my record, everything that I had at home that I was asking for to try to get it to a building and everything. My maps, my books, my communications, you know, I carry a ton of stuff in my vehicle that I can take into the field for quicker emergencies. But all these larger incidents, my documentation, my paperwork, you know, my postings, my TV, the TV, the dual monitor, you know, the internet. All that stuff is at the building. And for me to transport or come and work out of another facility is, I would have to bring something and I would miss something. So this is all based back to Flight 3407. When that went down and we had to run that incident out of the Clarence South Hall. One of the things that come out of that after action plan was government was still able to function, say like the next day or something. And what the Emergency Operations Center in your local government's facility is now you're hindering on running actual government back up and running, because government can come back up and running. You know, unless you lose power, you don't have a generator in your facility like what happened in Akron. But government, you got a power here, you can get back up and running. So if that was a non-holiday, like Monday, I'm sure you'd have been open here and probably would have been trying to run maybe with limited resources, because there was still the travel ban and people couldn't get in. But they try to separate somehow, you know, they try to separate the organizations like sheltering and fire halls. You don't try to do that because it becomes overcoming something. Like down there, like me suggesting to have Mike somewhere at the highway garage. We got the phone connections that we can intercommunicate through the intercom system of our phone system in here. You know, you push a button, you're talking to the highway garage, or you're talking here, so. They try not to put everybody together, they try to go unified command where you have one member of the organization. At your command facility, at your command post down there, that's what I'm calling it, the operations center where you do that, you know, and everybody is getting accustomed to using that facility. Like once I got down here, I didn't have no internet, I had my hotspot, thank God, you know, we were able to still to function, but I was nervous of losing power, and then I didn't tell you, Christmas morning, my wife got diagnosed with COVID, so I sort of was, you know, home with my wife, 2 years in a row, 2 Christmases in a row, same morning, Christmas, so. That was a little offshoot of what was going on, so I would have been, had to stay away, I did go down here and work, and John, you stopped in, and I come around and said, John, you know, my wife was diagnosed with COVID, we're gonna stay away, he goes, whatever, you know, so whatever.
Well, yeah, I
You
mean,
know, but
I think the end.
It was another caveat into the situation that I had, you know.
I mean, when you really break it down, nobody died. We had a couple hundred people, maybe 250 people we had to put shelter up. We were short on cots. That's not good, but it's not like a crisis in my opinion. I think the other thing you battle here, and I hate to come down on the weathermen because I think they predicted this one pretty good, but there's just too many people when you talk about the weather. They're never right. I'm not gonna worry about it. I got daughters who don't heed my warnings on stuff like that. They're never right. But this one they did get right, and so you're fighting that, I guess is what I'm saying. You're fighting the weather where people aren't taking it serious enough.
It started on Friday around what, 9 o'clock, 11
8
o'clock,
in the morning, cause I was down at the.
8
building.
o'clock? When did it end for the weather, the blowing and so forth? Monday
Tuesday?
morning or Tuesday?
Well, roughly Monday was pretty much, we were opening it up
The throughway opened up Tuesday,
Tuesday.
yeah,
Okay,
because we didn't get back until Monday night.
I think the heaviest snow here was done sometime in the middle of the night, because it was just north of us then, it was really getting hammered, so it
Yeah.
started coming back down through again. And then I talked to people in Alden, and they really weren't getting anything, they had blue skies for some of the time. And I got the church down there and the pastor lives in Alden and he wants to know about opening up for Christmas Day or Christmas Eve yet that, he was gonna call Eric Kowski. He says, you won't, your church won't even be opened up till Tuesday or Wednesday. I said, because I can't even get out my road yet, I said. Cause I think you guys came down, what, 10, 11, 12 o'clock, probably somewhere's in there?
Well, 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock, yeah. So it's 12 o'clock on Christmas before actually we could really get out. Well, the loader came through first, but
Yeah,
about,
we ended up pushing. through.
yeah,
Helped out a lot. Off the
so,
record, I went.
and that's the thing when you bring up with the transport, that's something. In this area, whether it's Alden, where they get that condition more than we really get it here. Because you can move resources with the storms, other than the blizzard here, but as far as the falling snow part of it. It was, another narrow band for the most part that was doing the damage.
Yeah, and the resource that I'm talking about for the snowmobile club ain't just gonna be confined to the Hempstead area.
Yeah,
You know, the storm, they move, it could be utilized in Chickawaga, Amherst or whatever, but having it right in our own backyard
Oh, it's
here,
not-
where they know the roads. I talked to them operators, I know them all, which was good, cause I had their phone numbers and I was talking to Rich McNamara that went and got John and ended up getting the state trooper, saved all them people. I knew him and he knew me, we knew each other as friends, through the construction, business that we do. And it was nice to know him and he knew me, so he knew when I called, he knew it was important. And that's the thing that I gotta talk to the snowmobile club about is they had all their friends calling, well, I gotta get to grandma's house to deliver gifts, well, this is an emergency, So that, I'm worried about that with the snowmobile club, because they need a unified command system too, on where they're gonna take their orders. If they're an emergency operation in our community, they're gonna take direction either under me or the fire chief. Because we know where the priorities are, you gotta screen the priorities. You got a family stranded out of gas and they're freezing, they got no heat, or you got a family stranded with, a full tank of gas and it's 2 adults. So you gotta set your priorities and you gotta get this group with kids and children that are run out of gas and they've got no heat. First, you gotta screen them calls and that all works through the Emergency Operations Center and Unified Command when we receive that information.
just think about it, I mean, how the weather works right now. I mean, you could have sat home for another 4 or 5 days and have to worry about it, the snow's gone.
God.
So
think
you-
about If it wasn't going, we got it in a way.
Well,
It could be, we looked at that as well. And it could happen yet this year. The lake out there is wide open, so.
So you were principally at your house on Main Street because the Wi-Fi went down at the denial.
Wi-Fi, and I was nervous with having those.
So
backup generator
You were
going on.
based there for the 48, 72 hours.
Yeah, pretty
for the
close. When you
communication.
look on my time sheet, I did spend one whole day down there. We were just down there this Saturday sanitizing the cots.
We were
All
down there
that stuff had to be all clean.
Christmas, you were down there, weren't you? Was the
Yeah.
next, what day was that? Christmas or the
I
next
don't know,
day?
John,
They all ran together.
Yeah, they did. After a while, they all ran together, yeah. But I was going down because I had a phone down there and I had
Yeah.
text messages, so I was walking, I put my goggles on, my hats, and I walked over. That was treacherous enough trying to walk down there, geez, and it's just been fun.
Oh, was Mike and Bill were out in the field then?
Mike was stranded at his house and he was out plowing, but he was a key resource, even though he was working for the county. He knew what was going on and helping us to try to help the town to try to get some of these people, like the car that was rolled over. Yeah, it was a joint.
So it's a communication information to you.
Yeah.
Relevant to Newstead.
Yep.
I'm past my bedtime, excuse me.
I know.
I'm
One
really-
more thing, having shelters and everything, I know I talked to Dave about the blankets. Where would you like me to?
Have them cleaned.
Have them clean?
The prices were real close. I got a verbal quote from, what is it, Arthur's, because that's where I go.
Yeah.
'Cause it's the closest.
Snappy, the owner is your neighbor. I didn't know that.
Either
With
did I,
Marsh.
huh?
With Marsh?
Oh, Jen,
Yes.
You own Snappy?
Snappy Cleaners. He
Yeah.
just started a brand new business in Clarence. Snappy Cleaners.
Huh.
Yeah, that was the other quote I gave you.
That's the rich side of Clarence Center Road.
Yeah, she's all the way to Transit.
So wherever you guys want me to, I mean, I can take them tomorrow and get them done, then we have them.
Whatever your choice.
Okay.
Surprises.
McCoy.
101 John Street, or Main Street. Union Fleet 105.
But,
Yeah, they're gonna be sanitized.
as I said at our last meeting, you guys were here, it was a great job. Everybody really helped out. You know, when I had a county plow go down Clarence Center Road and the hell's that, you know, but then, because I talked with Mike and Mike says, well, we're on their roads, they're on our roads, and everybody just helped out wherever they could.
Well, it's plows down, right? It was plows down for that.
Yeah,
storm.
New York State, the governor has a plows down under a state of emergency for a snowstorm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But thanks for all your time and effort and,
Meeting. When do you have that follow-up meeting?
Yeah,
Or you're scheduling?
I'm gonna schedule and I'll put an email out to the team.
But I think you posted one.
Yeah, if
Before you go.
you want to do it locally, I wouldn't mind
Sign
being the
for
two
that.
representatives, you know, and me and
Mike's
get
money.
together. And
What is that?
I need John, yeah.
Did you guys vote on that?
oh yeah, they just got to sign for it.
Yeah, sign over here. You got the wrong spot, but there's two of them.
Okay, Patty, see ya.
Sign for Dr. Burke?
Nope, on this side.
Oh, Councilman.
Yeah.
How do, you want me to carry that back?
Did we stop the recording? Here we go.